I had a great idea today on making a tutorial on the mixing section of Ableton because you need to know how to mix stuff and how to use these tracks properly. And these are multifunction instruments here, or devices, like MIDI tracks. They can put out audio and put out MIDI and also intake MIDI. And if you have an instrument on it, like a VST, you can take audio too. But let's start with it. So usually in Ableton you have two main views here, which are the big things, and that's the arrangement and the mixer slash clip view. So you can switch between the two with tab, but we'll be focusing on the the mixer view. I like to click on the bar here and scale them out just to make them bigger, and by default you should have, let me check this thing, doing good. You should have two MIDI tracks, two audio tracks, two sends, and of course your master, of which the master stays and you can't delete it. Reverb and delay by default, and then these things. So I guess we will talk about routing. By default, all of these send or receive audio to themselves and themselves only, like individually. So this audio track can only take audio from here and feed it to there, or feed it to the master. So it can take it from the arrangement view and send it to the master, or it can take external audio, like if I bring up the routing section, Control-I, and you can see there's an external input here, which is my mic, and also my, because I'm using a certain software for it, I should actually close that for now. It's also my input from my computer, so you can set audio from external in or other channels, like if I want to receive audio from, let's name this like in mix. There you go. Control-R to rename stuff, Control-R, but you should know this stuff. I've shown it a few tutorials and the key shortcuts. So audio from, I'm going to set that to no input, so it only inputs or takes audio from itself. And then audio to, I will route that to mix, because that's the only other audio track. I'll turn this to no input as well. And input means it's from an external device, or like renoise or something like, not renoise, a rewire or something like that. It's not necessarily individual tracks. That's where the audio to comes from, where you can route an audio track to another. So if I go to synthesis, let's do some crazy ass routing. If I grab FM8, bibbidi bop, assert up. Right now it's going from this MIDI track straight to the master, but what if I want to route it through two other audio channels? Because I can. I'll select this, set it to in, and you won't hear anything because you need to turn the monitor to in. And you still won't hear anything because the mix is not set to in. And now you hear stuff. That's routing, is pretty useful, but let's get down to actual use of the tracks here. So I'll hide this routing section. So I guess I'll start with a MIDI track that has an audio or a output device on it, like a VST, and because it's like all other audio tracks. And to start here we have sends, and if you delete both of these here, you won't have any of those, so you'll just have like the kind of thing that shows you the position of the audio or the song you're in. Then under it we have our max the volume ceiling here, so it's peaking at about, what is that, negative 18.8 dB. It's about that high. You can click it to reset it. Of course, the higher it goes to 0. As it approaches 0, it gets perceivably louder. That's that. Don't go over 0 or else it clips. Good heads up. Down here is the actual volume control. So you can click this itself, or you can use the fader on the mixer, but the fader is better. It's just more controllable. You can go up 6 decibels. You can go down to where you can't hear it anymore, which is negative infinity, because there is no real negative value that makes you hear nothing. So you can just move this around just like so. I heard a loud bang. That wasn't pleasing. You can move that around, go crazy with it, mix stuff. But if you want more fine-tuned control, hold Control. You can move it down by increments of a tenth. And like with everything else in Ableton, you can click on the parameter, press delete, and it will reset it. Recording nice and good. Okay, checking the bit rate. Beneath that you have the pan setting, which is right and left respectively. Stereo field stuff. Delete to reset. Underneath that you have your kind of output controls here, output and input, and monitoring. So monitoring would be a good name for it. This is the mute slash unmute button, so it's playing, now it isn't. If it has color on it, it's good unless you have a different skin that dictates otherwise. I think the default skin has same deal with this one, where if no color, it's muted. And if the track has great audio like this, it either means there's everything else is soloed or it's muted. Like if I solo this, you'll hear it. If I solo this, you will not. And a quick thing, if you solo a track that's chained to another track that's outputting audio, the other tracks that are outputting audio that lead to that track are also soloed. As you can see, pretty neat. This thing is a solo button, like I said before, so you can solo stuff. You can press Control and click on multiple tracks to solo them. But you can click on one solo button to remove them all. And underneath that you have your ARM/record button for recording stuff, for MIDI input and audio input. Say if I wanted to, well, it's a mixer tutorial cover. Oh, why not? I'll do it because I have this FM8 routed here. If I want to record audio from it, all I need to do is press the record button here, press record up here, press play, and play the note. Except it won't play anything because I need to enable input on this, so control click on this enables it. Oh, that was iffy. There you go. So that's audio. I'll delete this clip here. And right now, this is pretty neat that I showed this. You won't hear anything because it's not taking, it's only monitoring what's coming into it via external outputs, like FM8 within the mixer track here. If I want to actually hear the audio clip, I need to press auto. You won't hear input from FM8, but you will hear the audio clip. Oh, and there's that nice little note fill there. That's right, cool. Now with some selection things, if I want a clean slate to work with audio, I'll delete all of these by clicking on one on the end, clicking another, and pressing delete. But I can't do that because there needs to be at least one track left in Ableton. I'll have that be a MIDI track because it's clear. So I'll choose these three by clicking on one, holding shift, and clicking on the end, and deleting it, and we have one MIDI track. My lavaliers flapping around. If I want to add another track, I'll just press Control T for an audio track, Control Shift T for a MIDI track, and Control Alt T for a send/return track. Oops. And I hid them by pressing Control Alt R, which hides the return channels. You can add as many of these as you want. Control Alt I for the routing section, Control Alt R for the return section. As you can see, I have quite a few returns there because I can do it. If I want to add infinite amounts of audio tracks, you can do that as well. Except it's probably going to start dying on you, but not on me because I have 8 cores. Now that I have this flooded here and I want to delete them, I can of course press Control A and deselect the last one by holding Control. Let me just reselect that, Control A, hold Control and click on, oh, I selected it wrong. I'm about to sneeze. Ooh. And that was explosive. There we are, and delete. And the same thing applies for returns, because they're basically in their own routing section, except you can select all of them at once and delete it. So Control A, delete. There you go. Neat. So the way that routing works here, as I've said, it's based on the routing section here. Again, Control Alt I. So this MIDI track, for instance, is taking MIDI in from my keyboard, so MIDI from all ins and all channels because it's an omni channel, I think, or it's just all channels, keyboard channel, and monitor. It's so you can monitor it. So if you turn it to in, you can see that you can monitor the input, auto, only when playing a track or receiving, and off, obviously off. Then MIDI 2 is, of course, an output to a MIDI track. So if I add another MIDI track, I can output to the MIDI track, and now, based on playing this track, it's going to this track. If I turn in and monitor it, you can see it. Same applies for audio, so I'll add 2 audio tracks. I'll route this to the second audio track. Ooh, that's a bad idea. I should probably turn off external input by setting it to no input. Now I can monitor it. So if I don't know, grab a sample like a crash cymbal, yes, and slap it on the top one, it's going from this track to the master. How would you want to do this? Well, like I did a sidechain tutorial. This could be, let's say I have 2 other audio tracks. All these could be drum tracks. One could be a drum track, and 2 of these could be synth tracks. And the drum track, as well as all the other tracks, could be routed. A neat trick, you can select all the tracks you want to route and route them all to one by clicking on the channel you want it to route to. There you have it. Make sure it's at the track in, of course. And all of these are routed to this track. And then in this track, I can have a compressor and use the sidechain signal from the kick to compress these 2 tracks. So that's routing there. And that begs the question, how could you use MIDI routing? Well, in my track 980, I use MIDI routing to route multiple inputs to a Contact 5. It's a sampler from Native Instruments. And I use that to load multiple patches inside of it and play multiple string instruments from it. So if I load like one of these, not that, 1, 2, come on now, 3, all those are playing at once, and that's not cool. I can set these all, again, with shift clicking with one selected. I can set the output to Contact 5, and now I open this and I select the MIDI inputs, if I remember correctly, with this here, channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. And now you can select these here. So if I play this, it only plays that instrument. If I choose this, it plays the other instrument. If I select this one here, don't believe me, just look at it. And then there's a routing section down here, which you can also route the external audio tracks multiple at a time, which I like to do with drums to mix them better. And of course there's a 16-out Contact version for that, for routing 8 stereo outputs. That's very neat. I think I'll show you how to do that right now. I'll just do it with blank audio, or blank Contact. With these here, all you have to do is click on the audio tracks. I'll disable monitor for this one. Turn all of these to off, actually. Select all of these tracks here, same clicking method. I don't think Contact is outputting audio. Alright, you need to put in from. I was doing it wrong. And then Contact 5. Did I? I didn't multi-select. Silly me. Contact 5. There we are. And then from these tracks here, so first stereo, third stereo, fourth stereo, and fifth stereo. And there is no first stereo because that's the main output here of Contact. So Contact 5 itself puts out channels 1 and 2 through this mixer track, which are left and right, and then all other tracks 3, actually yes, 3 through whatever number it goes to are out here. So if I want to load an instrument, bam. Of course this applies to other instruments or VSTs with multiple routing. I'll just enable the record button to play MIDI. Right now it's putting it through channel 1, as you can see here, 1, 2. And if I switch the output up here to stereo 2 and set this to in so I can monitor it, you won't hear it because right now it's routed to audio 4, and it's not inputting audio from monitor. It's down a little, delete to reset it. There's some beautiful chords for you. That's how you route stuff.